And with that, first of all, before we begin, just to let everybody know, as usual, I will have all the attendees muted as we go through this. And actually, could somebody send me a chat? You'll find the chat on the right side of the screen in your GoToMeeting dashboard. And just let me know that you can hear me. That would be awesome. And it looks like you can hear me okay. Cool beans, that's awesome. All right. Again, I'm going to keep everybody muted as we go through this today. So as we go through, if you do have any questions or comments or want to see something again, please send it via chat. Julie's going to be monitoring the chats as well as she can, sitting here with me today. And we will have a question-answer session at the end of the webinar today. So let me make sure I'm showing my screen. And I'll start out with a small PowerPoint presentation just as an introduction, and then we'll actually get into Ascribe Coder, do some demonstrations, then open the floor for question-answer session. All right, so let's get going. Again, this is an Ascribe Coder webinar. My name is Laura Rice. I'm the Director of Training here at Ascribe. Thank you all for attending today. I hope that this will get your brains going a little bit on some of the other things that you can do with Ascribe Coder other than code. Just to get us all on the same page, I'd like to talk a little bit about Ascribe Coder, what it is, where it's at, where it's going. So Ascribe Coder was released on September 20th of 2013, and I'd just like to make it absolutely obvious to everyone, Ascribe Coder is available today in Ascribe. It is live out there on the servers. You can access it today by right-clicking on your questions and choosing Ascribe Coder. Just make sure everyone knows that. About once a week I get contacted with, hey, can you give me access to Ascribe Coder? So just, again, I am using the live server today. You all have access to it. Okay? And, yes, you can use it for coding today. It's not a prototype. It is the actual tool out there ready to use. Ascribe Coder was created to merge the functionality of 4 pages: review responses, a single response coder interface, and edit the codebook. All right? And then also Codebook Editor Preview, but Codebook Editor Preview was removed from the software on September 20th when we released Ascribe Coder. All right. Then Ascribe Coder was created over the past 2 years using our internal team, our users group, and with our user-based wish list on hand with the development team. And basically what they did was went through and looked at all the requests we've had throughout the years for review responses in the single response coder interface and edit the code book, and tried to generalize those enough that they made sense for all of us. So what you'll see in Ascribe Coder is that we have access to all the tools that are available in these 4 windows in one place. Ascribe Coder is multi-browser compatible, so you can access Ascribe Coder using Google Chrome, Firefox, or Safari on a Mac, or Internet Explorer. And just a word about Internet Explorer, IE 8 is not a good experience with Internet Explorer. IE 9 is a better experience, but there are a few drag-drop problems in IE 9. You're going to have your best experience with IE 10 or IE 11 or Google Chrome, well, or Firefox. And Safari, I've not tested a whole lot myself, so if you're a Mac user, go at it. Okay, so just a little more about Ascribe Coder. The release was in September. Version 7.5 was released on November 29th, and there were a lot of updates to Ascribe Coder based on your feedback. Okay, we've had a few patches to version 7.5, but somebody's saying they can't hear me. Antoine, can you confirm whether or not you can hear me? Okay, okay. Let me see here. Let me see Catherine here. I don't know why she would not be able to hear me. Okay. Antoine, can you please respond to Catherine and let her know that there's not a problem with the sound, that she might want to dial back in? That would be awesome if you could do that, Antoine. Thank you. And now I've got my computer doing something funky. I don't know what I did, but that's okay. We'll get through it. Okay, so back to the task at hand here. So there have been, I just wanted to show that there have been some patches to Ascribe Coder. As a matter of fact, we are continually tweaking it. Something that we like to say is, hey, it took 12 years for us to do review responses in the single response coder interface. You know, so we're trying to make sure that this tool is the best that it can be for you guys before removing review responses, the single response coder interface, and edit the code book. One of the questions that comes up in almost every one of these sessions is spell check for Ascribe Coder, and we do have a spell check. The development team is working on it. It is scheduled for release in March of 2014, the end of March. We're looking forward to getting that for testing real soon. So again, spell check for Ascribe Coder is scheduled for the end of March. I want to talk about version 8 before we actually get into the demo. Version 8 is tentatively scheduled for June of 2014, and that's when we plan to remove review responses, to remove the single response coding interface, and to remove edit the code book. So those 3 windows are scheduled for release, or for removal in June of 2014. And that's part of the reason we're going to be doing these webinars. We'll do another set of webinars in March, and a set in April, and a set in May. We're also going to be available to schedule, if your team needs an individual session, we can schedule that. And also we are recording each of these sessions for anybody that might want to sit through one of these again. Okay? Part of the reason that I point this out is because I want you guys to let us know when you have to go to review responses or the single response coder interface or edit the code book. I want you to let us know when you do that and why you do that, so that we can continue to improve the Ascribe Coder efficiency, productivity, and all that good stuff. One more thing to mention before we get into the demo, version 8.2 is tentatively scheduled for August of 2014, and that's when we'll release the updated version of Phrase Analyzer. And I'm often asked, you know, well, what are you guys doing about Phrase Analyzer? Phrase Analyzer is actually being rewritten as we speak. They're trying to make some decisions about where things should be, if it should be part of Ascribe Coder or standalone as it is today. So all that's being figured out right now, but we will have an updated Phrase Analyzer in version 8.2 of Ascribe, which is scheduled for August. All right. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and go right on over to Ascribe. So today I'm using Chrome, and the first thing I did want to point out is that there are other webinars, and we are trying to keep these webinars focused on individual, things in Ascribe. And today we're going to be talking about notes, translation, and transcription. That's just a small part of it. So I'll also be reviewing how to apply codes today as well. I'm going to go ahead and navigate over to Supervisor Studies. And right-click on my study. Okay. And again, we're going to be talking about notes, translation, and transcription today. So let me go ahead and go into my first question here. Ascribe Coder. All right. And bring up all of my responses. And while we're waiting for that, I'll talk a little bit about the screen layout for those of you that might not have been in one of these webinars yet. And this might be your first introduction to Ascribe Coder. So what we see when we enter Ascribe Coder is on the right side of the screen we see our code book. And actually for this part, I'd prefer to go into. Okay. So what we see is our code book on the right side of the screen. Our nets are bolded. The codes are beneath the nets. At the top of the screen, we have our code book toolbar, or code book tools. We have the lock, unlock option. The lock, of course, is for coding. Unlock is for moving codes about or changing the structure of the code book. On the left side of the screen, this is our response side of the screen. We have two modes. We've got multiple response mode and single response mode. I'm going to be focused on multiple response mode today. We return our responses by doing a search. And actually, it's just a bad habit of mine to just hit search again immediately. But really, our first search, we might want to know what we're searching for. In this case, I'm searching for all of my responses. Okay? All right. We do have some tools on the response side of the page. I'll be going through these more on Thursday of this week. I'll be going through each of these tools in depth Thursday of this week. Today I'm going to be focusing on just one set of tools, and we'll get to those in a minute. At the bottom of our screen, we've got our question information. So I'm seeing that I'm in Q8, which is the dislikes of the product. One thing to point out is that you can edit your question properties directly from this screen. I'm going to close that back up. All right. Our responses are over here on the left side of the screen, and I see I've still got some options in place from the last time that I was in, where I'm showing my question ID and my respondent ID. By default, we usually see it like this. All right. And the only other thing that I want to talk about before we get into notes, translations, and transcriptions is the fact that we navigate out of this screen by clicking on the navigation icon. So there are no right-click navigation. There's no right-click navigation functionality in Ascribe Coder. If you want to go somewhere else in Ascribe, if you want to go to another window, then you actually will click on the navigation icon. And you'll notice that these are all places that you can go within Ascribe, except for the help system. The help system is actually help for Ascribe Coder. And the best way to access the help system today is to do the table of content, and then it shows a list of all the different tools in Ascribe Coder. We know that this needs to be organized a little differently. We're actually working on that. It's a work in progress right now. But everything, just about everything, is documented here. Okay? All right. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in to translation and transcription. Actually, I'm going to jump into notes first. I'm going to do that here. There we go. All right. Let me return some responses using my search again. So I am going to turn on the functionality to be able to edit notes, okay? And I do that in my response settings. That's my little gear up here. I click on my responses tab if it's not already open, and I click on notes under the edit. Notice when I turn on the notes, I get a little pencil in a box following each verbatim. Okay? So this allows me to edit my notes. All right? So if I want to take a note on a verbatim, so let's say I'm going to apply works well there, and it says good product to have on hand. And maybe that's a code that we sometimes add, not quite sure. So what I can do is and since I'm in Chrome, I have to Control-C, Control-V to put it in the notes field. Okay? And now, good product to have on hand is actually a note for this verbatim. All right? It shows up here. I could also take a note. So let's say I'm coding this guy, and I got eliminates wintertime static. but maybe what I want to do is make a note. You know, I can type in my note. All right. Now, by default, this was just changed in our last release. The notes are displayed in italics. Okay. They are displayed in the same font though as the verbatim. So one thing to point out is that if I change the font of my response, the font of my note changes as well. Okay? I just want to make sure that's clear. The only difference between the verbatim and the note today is that the note comes out in italics. Okay? So if I'm showing my verbatims in not bold, unbold, or bold, the same applies to the notes. All right? Just want to make sure we're clear on that. Okay, and one of the things that's kind of driving me nuts here is that I had changed the font of my codes earlier, so I'm going to change that back to normal because that was driving me a little crazy. All right, so now I have two notes here, and if I want to edit the notes, I can click in the box to edit the note and make changes. You know, if there's something I wanted to change, can do it that way. I can also right-click on the response and choose Edit. And you'll notice that I have access to the note down here as well. Okay? So if I ever need to just see the whole picture for the verbatim, I can always right-click on it and hit Edit to change my notes as well. All right. Now, Julie, correct me if I'm wrong. In IE10 and IE11, we can drag and drop into the notes field,
yes.
Right? So go ahead.
If you have that
yeah. So in IE10 and IE11, you can actually drag and add to your notes field. Again, I'm in Chrome, and in Chrome, I have to Control-C and Control-V to add to my notes field. Okay? Now, one other thing, if you're going to drag and drop to add to your notes field, you must make sure that you've got the drag responses to copy coding turned off, toggled off, I should say. Because if with drag response to copy coding toggled on, it highlights the whole verbatim for me, because what that allows me to do is, again, apply the codes that were applied to this response to another response by dragging the response. Okay? For those of you that weren't around for previous sessions. So yeah, you would want to turn off drag response to copy coding if you're using IE8 or IE9 or IE10 or 11 and using the drag drop to populate the notes field. Okay, so we talked a little about editing the notes. What if I don't necessarily want to edit the notes, but I just want to view the notes? Okay? You'll notice that this display box also has an option for notes. Okay? If I just want to view the notes and not edit the notes, now you'll see that there's no longer a box around the notes field. Okay? There's still an indication that this is a note. Now, okay, we got the pencil, so we see verbatim, pencil, the note starts. Verbatim, pencil, the note starts. Verbatim, pencil indicates that we've got a note there. All right? So that's how we would just view our notes. If we're not in the business of editing notes, we just need to see other people's notes, then we might want to do the display option to show the notes. And it will also show the user who wrote the notes. Okay? Now what if what if I just want to see those responses that have notes? What do I do then? Well, then I actually will set a filter for just those responses with notes. Once I set a filter, once I change a filter or a sort order, I have to do a search again. And let me make sure I'm bringing up all my responses. I am. So now I'm just bringing up those responses that have notes. So I've got 8 responses, 8 out of 348 that have notes. Okay? And in this case, I've also toggled on the user who wrote the note, so the user who took the note. So we see Ascribe support took these notes. Some of these notes were in when the study was restored, so it doesn't indicate who because this came from a different site. But you can see where it says up here, Ascribe support took these notes. So I'm now just displaying the responses that have a note. Okay? All right. Again, that is under my filter and sorting, and it's notes. I want to see those with notes. If I'm interested in just seeing those without notes, I would change it to without notes and do my search again. And this time I'm just seeing those responses without notes. And remember, whenever we've got a filter set, we can see which filter is set just by hovering over this little filter, the word filtered here at the top in red. Okay? So now I'm just showing those responses that do not have notes. One of the things, too, that I like to point out for people, we've gotten a few phone calls where, hey, I'm searching for something and it's not coming up and I know it's here. And what will happen is that there's a filter in place somewhere. You can really just come here and hit clear all, and it takes away all of your filters so that you're starting back fresh. Okay? All right. So we've talked about notes and how we take notes and what we do with notes. Another thing that we can do with notes or translations or transcriptions is that we can mark them as quality reviewed. But before I talk more about that, let's talk about translation and transcription. Okay? If I'm taking a translation, or if I'm translating, if I am the translator here, I would turn on Edit Translation. Okay? The translation icon is this 2 A's, a normal A and then an A with the 2 dots above it, right? And that's the translation icon. So this is a translation. Okay? Translations appear in the same font as the verbatim. Okay? So this is a translation. Let's talk about transcription. Transcriptions appear after the piece of paper with an arrow on it. This is a transcription. Okay? And then we know our notes appear. I want to do my notes. My notes appear after the pencil. Okay? So we could, and we have a couple of clients that are actually doing this, we could transcribe voice recordings or transcribe scanned images, right? So someone could transcribe them, and if they were in French, we could then have someone come in and translate them. And then as the coder's working, they could also take a note, okay? You can have all 3 things open for editing at one time. I don't know that you would ever have all 3 open for editing at one time, but you can, okay? But now let's talk a little bit about quality review, okay, of transcriptions, translation, and notes. We can mark a translation as quality reviewed by toggling the little box in front of it, the translation icon. When it's green, it's considered quality reviewed. Let me right-click and hit Edit to show you this. Okay? So again, this is what's behind the scenes with my verbatim. Okay? My study ID, my question ID, the respondent ID. the verbatim text box, the translation text box, the transcription text box, and the notes text box. But notice also that there's a little toggle box in front of each of these. This toggle box is the reviewed toggle box. Okay? So if I'm actually editing verbatims, which, by the way, as an aside, is an account level option, and I need to quality check verbatims, I can toggle the verbatim on as quality checked. I can toggle transcription, I can toggle notes, I can even toggle the coding as quality reviewed. So verbatim quality reviewed, translation quality reviewed, transcription quality reviewed, notes quality reviewed, coding quality reviewed. And I'm going to be doing a quality reviewed webinar as well. So just know that. Okay, so now I've got my coding quality reviewed on, and see how each of these icons is green. That means that they're marked as quality reviewed. If I need to mark multiple things as quality reviewed, then what I can do is select multiple, right-click, and say Set Selected Responses. And this is, again, coding quality reviewed, verbatim quality reviewed, translation reviewed, transcription reviewed, or notes reviewed. If I mark them translation reviewed, notice that the little box changes. If I want to clear it, then I would clear translation reviewed. All right? Okay. So one other thing that I wanted to talk about, you know, notes, translations, and transcriptions all work very much the same. I just wanted to make sure I talked about each of them. Remember, if you just want to see them, all you got to do is toggle this on. If you want to actually take them, and then you won't see the boxes around them. If you actually want to be able to edit them, you'll turn this on. Okay? I want to talk 1 second about the option that we have to auto-translate. And I was going to do this in the other study, but that's okay. We can do it right here. I can say translate, and I get my little translation option, and I can say translate from English to whatever it is that I want to translate to, Chinese, and what am I doing incorrectly here? Oh, there we go. There it is, new translation. I can apply it, and it'll automatically populate the translation field for me. So if you have a couple of Spanish responses that you need to translate, or Chinese responses or whatever, you can access Google Translate directly from this screen. So again, what I did is I right-click on the verbatim, I hit translate, it brings up tells me what it's translating. If there's already a translation in our dictionary, it'll show that for us. But in this case, I want a new translation. I could even say translate back. So it would show me how it translated back. If I'm okay with that, I hit apply, and I could move to my next. And I could just move to my next by clicking the next button down here. Okay? But I just wanted to show that that is also an option for translating. And that's pretty much everything that I had to cover today. I really just wanted to make sure that we understood that editing notes and viewing notes or displaying notes are two different things here, and the different ways that we can take notes, translations and transcriptions, and how to mark things as quality reviewed. I will go ahead and open the floor for questions. And if there aren't a lot of questions, if you guys would like, I can go over the different ways that we can apply codes in Ascribe Coder. Just let me know if that's what you'd like to do, and we'll go from there. Did you see any questions come up? I think
we're frozen.
Yeah, my GoToMeeting is frozen. Yeah, because I'm having an issue seeing my chats. Antoine, I was trying to unmute you, and for somehow my no, I don't want to close my GoToMeeting. There we go. Today has been a Monday of all Mondays. Antoine, if you could stop the recording, that would be great.